I've seen a couple of YouTubers comparing the full frame EOS-R against the crop frame M50, but with the addition of the Viltrox speedbooster. So is this mini combo really a close equivalent to Canon's first full frame mirrorless camera? My name is Kai Song and welcome to the KaiCreative YouTube channel. We talk about cameras, filmmaking, photography and general visual creativity. So if any of that interests you, do consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that bell for notifications. And today we're going to be comparing these two pieces of kit side by side. The Canon M50 with the addition of the Viltrox speedbooster and the full frame Canon EOS-R. We're going to be looking at the specs, we'll do some photo and video comparisons, and we'll see whether or not you can save a few dollars, pounds or rupees by investing in this crop frame super team instead of the full frame Canon EOS-R. And when I say save money, I mean the M50 plus the Viltrox speedbooster is less than half the price of the Canon EOS-R. In fact, currently this mini combination will cost you approximately $850 brand new versus the EOS-R, which will cost you about $1,800. So that's quite a big difference, especially if budget is a big issue. If you don't know already, this little piece of equipment, the Viltrox speedbooster, does a number of things to enhance the use of your M50. First of all, it acts as an adapter, which allows you to attach EF glass to your camera, as the M50 is an M mount. This opens your creative world to a whole catalogue of older lenses, giving you much more variety, especially if you have a collection of EF glass already at home. And the whole reason that we are using this combination, the M50 and the speedbooster, is essentially the reason why we are able to compare it to the full frame EOS-R camera in the first place, because of the fact that this piece of kit magnifies the effective focal length of that APS-C sensor by a factor of 0.71. So you take the crop factor of the M50, which is 1.6 when compared to a full frame sensor format, which the EOS-R has, and you times that by 0.71, which then gives you 1.136. And this number is much closer to 1, which represents a full frame sensor, and of course is much better when compared to the original crop of 1.6. And because you have that magnified sensor size, you also get another stop of light, which means that you can open your aperture up much wider. For example, it essentially changes my f-stop 4 lens to an f-stop 2.8, it changes my f-stop 2.8 lens to an f-stop 2, and it changes the 50mm 1.4 to an f-stop 1, which of course means much more bokeh and technically better low light performance. So hopefully you got all of that. Don't worry if you didn't. Fundamentally, what you need to know is that the Viltrox speedbooster gives the Canon M50 the edge that it needs to compete against the Canon EOS-R. Kind of like when Iron Man put on his Hulkbuster costume to... Wait, is it a costume? Kind of like when Iron Man put on his Hulkbuster armor to fight the Hulk. Yeah, close enough. When it comes to ergonomics, both cameras are mirrorless and therefore smaller and lighter than most of your average DSLR cameras. The EOS-R weighs in at 660 grams, while the M50 is a lot lighter, coming in at 390 grams. Now, I have heard a few people mention that the buttons aren't too great on the M50. They find them quite small and fiddly, but you kind of get used to that eventually. Well, I did anyway. The EOS-R, on the other hand, is water sealed, which means that you can take it out in pretty heavy rain and not worry too much about any damage that might be caused to your camera. And the EOS-R also has a top LCD panel, which the M50 does not. Both cameras have flip-out screens, making them ideal for vlogging. They both have Canon's dual-pixel autofocus for quick and easy touch focus, as well as face and eye tracking, ensuring that you always have good focus on your face. Both cameras use the Digic 8 processor. Both have microphone inputs, although only the EOS-R has a headphone jack. When it comes to battery life, the EOS-R is marked at 370 shots, while the M50 comes in a little lower at 235 shots on a single charged battery. Although I've used both of these cameras till the batteries were drained, and they take a lot more shots than those official values. When it comes to focus points, the EOS-R has over 5,000 compared to the 143 of the M50. But the M50 has a continuous shooting rate of 10 frames per second, while the EOS-R is slightly behind in this area, coming in at 8 frames per second. So those are a few of the specs. But how exactly do the photos compare when we look at these two cameras side by side? Well, we took the EOS-R and the M50 speedbooster combo out for a day of photo comparisons using the same lenses and camera settings. So let's see if you can spot the difference and tell which one is which. Now for these photo comparisons, we used legacy Canon EF-L glass, and obviously we have the EOS-R, which is an RF mount, versus the M mount of the M50. So both of these cameras are using adapters. Now the M50 is using the Viltrox speedbooster, of course, and the EOS-R is actually using the Canon EF to EOS-R mount adapter. And we shot these photos using the highest possible photo quality settings for these two cameras, producing raw images. Now, because the Viltrox speedbooster is magnifying the image, I was expecting some pretty noticeable distortion on the edges of the photos, and we can actually zoom in here and investigate our image quality a little more. And what I noticed straight away is that the corners of the image aren't actually that bad with the M50 combo. The EOS-R certainly appears to have brighter, richer images, but the real difference can be seen when we zoom into the eyes of our model here. There is definitely a lot more sharpness in the EOS-R pics, and even on the glasses here, I can read the words Polaroid, which are really blurry in the M50 image. Again, when you compare shots taken in lower light, even with the technically larger sensor and that extra stop of light with the Viltrox speedbooster, you still have quite a lot of grain in your M50 photos and videos. So it doesn't really hold up against a full frame in these kind of circumstances. But in good light conditions, it certainly isn't too bad at all when compared to its full frame counterpart. What about the video comparison? Well, let's jump straight in with the 4K video. Now, both of these cameras have 4K that can film at 24 frames per second, but the EOS-R can go a little higher with 4K at 30 FPS. And as you've probably heard, both of these cameras have a crop on the 4K. The EOS-R crops the 4K by 1.7, while the M50 crops in the image by 1.6. Bear in mind that the M50 is already a crop frame camera, so in 4K you actually get a crop of 1.6 times 1.6, which is 2.56 when compared to a full frame sensor. And that effectively turns the 16 to 35mm lens to a 41 to 90mm lens. But don't forget, with the speed booster, we have to multiply by 0.71, which then actually gives us a crop of 1.81, which actually takes our 16 to 35mm to 29 to 64mm, which isn't as bad, and is actually closer to the crop of the 4K EOS-R crop. I apologize that this video is actually turning into a bit of a maths lesson. But what about focusing while using the 4K? Well, the M50 tends to be quite slow with 4K focusing, and it can be a little bit hit and miss, while the EOS-R usually is very good and keeps things in sharp focus while you film or vlog in 4K. Now, the EOS-R also has a much higher bitrate for 4K video at 480 megabits per second compared to the 120 megabits per second of the Canon M50. And for the 1080 60 frames per second video, you have a bitrate of 180 megabits per second on the EOS-R compared to the 60 megabits per second for the M50. And of course, a higher bitrate generally tends to mean higher video quality. Now, the vast majority of people are probably going to stick with the HD 1080 option on both of these cameras. So what is that like exactly? Well, on the M50 and EOS-R, you get 1080 up to 60 FPS on both cameras, but the EOS-R comes with the all-eye option of compression, giving you much better quality, while the M50 only offers IPB. Additionally, one of the things that the EOS-R does have as an option for video, both for 4K and 1080, is the C-Log option. Essentially, this option extends the dynamic range of your camera, which helps to retain details in dark shadows as well as bright highlights, and this helps you to better color grade your footage in post-production. Now, the M50 has a picture profile that you can download for free called CineStyles from the Technicolor website, and this outputs a flat C-Log looking profile that you can color grade later on, but it doesn't actually extend the dynamic range of your picture. It's just a picture style. And if we go into Premiere Pro here, we can have a quick look at the scopes, and we can actually see the difference in the recorded files, where you can extend out the whites and the blacks of the EOS-R C-Log image, but with the CineStyles footage, there isn't any option to do that because it's just a picture profile. The EOS-R also offers a 10-bit external recording option to an external recording device like the Atomos Ninja 5, where you can get 1024 bits per color channel, displaying over 1 billion different colors. So we've looked at the specs, we've compared some sample photo and video examples, but how does the M50 and Viltrox speedbooster combo really stack up against the EOS-R? Well, for photos, your M50 is actually quite a powerful competitor, outputting the CR3 RAW files, giving you a lot of flexibility in the edit, and also it's really compact. It's easy to carry around, making it perfect for things like travel photography. And again, it's really easy to use for videos on the move, when traveling, as well as for vlogging. And that's what a lot of content creators are already using it for. And with the M50, you're not so worried about throwing it around in a bag, in the back of a car, on a train or a plane. I personally don't worry too much about my M50 more than I do about my EOS-R, even though the EOS-R is supposed to be more robust. Probably I'm worried because it's more expensive. On the other hand, many of you will probably know that there are a number of popular YouTubers and content creators who are already using the EOS-R for their vlogs and video content. But what about for professional work? Well, I do know quite a few professionals already that are using the EOS-R for their wedding and corporate work. I don't personally know any photographers here in the UK using the M50 for those kinds of professional jobs, but I have seen some incredible photos and video work done on the M50 Facebook groups, so you might want to go and check some of those out. So which one should you get? Well, it really depends on what you're looking to create and what your budget is. Are you looking to make vlogs, YouTube videos, casual travel holiday videos, or maybe something that takes photos a little better than your current mobile phone? Then the M50 and the Viltrox speedbooster are a nice, affordable combination if budget is an issue. I often still regularly use my M50 for vlogging, photography, and travel videos, and recently for Zoom calls, funnily enough. It's small, compact, it really is just so useful to have with you, and it's convenient to carry around, perhaps more so than the EOS-R. But saying that, if you can afford the EOS-R, then get an EOS-R. You've got that full frame sensor, it's water sealed, it's perfect for pros and amateurs alike. For video, you've got the added benefit of C-Log for larger dynamic range, you can output 10-bit video externally, and you won't have any concerns at all using it for professional work. So if that's what you're looking to get into, then put a bit more money into getting yourself a Canon EOS-R. So those are my thoughts on comparing these two cameras side by side. If you're considering getting one of these cameras, then which one will it be and why? Let me know down in the description box below. Now, I recently created a poll in my YouTube community section to see what my subscribers wanted to see for the next video, and this was the video that got the most votes. So I will be creating another poll for the next selection of videos, so make sure you cast your vote for the video that you want to see next. And also, if there are any ideas for videos that you want to see on the channel, again, feel free to write a comment in the comment section below. So that's it from me today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. All that's left to say is stay creative, stay safe, imagine, implement, and inspire, and I'll see you next time on KaiCreative.